Okay, so to continue, I think the signal will be better now. Pretty much, guys, I was just sharing my view on the idea of love and how it's conditional and unconditional. Unconditional love means the presence of truth, I find. Do you know? That means it's in some sense a sort of perfect appreciation. Like imagine right now, not right now, but imagine in a parallel universe of Earth, extraterrestrials land on Earth and they're like human beings. Either we live here, either we invade you, or we take your planet and give you another planet to live on. And then human beings will realize, their unconditional love for their world. They'll be like, no, it's our planet. Get out of here, punk, We'd have that attitude as humanity. Dear viewers, I have been thinking about the true intentions of 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. And there was a moment when I was younger, I felt like I did not have the presence, the audacity, the confidence, strength, even it wasn't real to me. There's an inspiration for exploration and discovery. This is the scholar's path, okay? You got to understand that there are problems in this world that are bigger than individual human problems. When we understand that, then we can start, doing some new things. How should we love others, okay? If somebody says, Mr. Within, do you love people right now? Do you love the species? I would say, if, I speak about, I care for the species, but love is something that if I don't understand what I'm loving, what kind of love is that? Do you understand? I'm just one person in a species, and I think I have stopped lying to myself as a being. To the degree that I've acknowledged the most honest position is the unknown. God says be honest. People say be honest. Everybody says be honest. If we are truly honest, we realize what we don't know is way more than what we know, so what we know is nothing still. This is what they don't tell you. In any effort, there are chaotic views and ordered views. Anybody who thinks the world is here to be just a good place, wrong. Anybody here who thinks the world is here to be a bad place, wrong. Anybody who wonders, what is this place, you're closer. Do you understand? Because it's the actions that are right and wrong. Before you commit a wrong action or you do a good deed, you are neither. Do you understand? We are neutral beings until our actions lead to consequences that are interpreted good and bad. But this doesn't mean that we should dehumanize. If somebody says, in a world where everybody is just an object, what could love mean? What could love mean to a materialist? Do you understand? Do you understand? I mean, is it just the periodic table moving? Is it just neurons moving? Is it just particles moving? Or is there something that is noticing something that it has noticed before? I don't know, but when I've looked at all the women in this life I've been drawn towards, there was something that I felt only I could see. Do you know, there were feelings of like hidden angles. You know, as if you see a hidden angle to someone and you hadn't noticed that before. You know. But the idea of desiring as an object, I mean, this is when, you know, a lot of people go into the New Age community. They're like, man, oneness and love, but why is my love life not there? Why isn't there anyone there? You know, and let me tell you why. I learned this from, believe it or not, in Judaism. I saw this video of this very profound rabbi talking about money, and I'd never seen somebody talk about a spiritual view of money. Do you know what I'm saying? And so in the video, there was this gentleman asking this very wise rabbi, like, how do you increase your wealth? How do you become like super wealthy? And the rabbi said a very interesting answer. He said, the type of vessel you create suggests the miracle that you have, right? So first view is everything is coming from that which authorized everything to move. Do you see? You know, I asked my religious grandfather, you know, was successful in business. I'm like, how do you do it? And he's like, just open a store. God will send you customers. I'm like, whoa. And it's kind of true. You know, I started giving talks and, you know, there's a Discord community, like an epic Discord community, or to be epic Discord. What I'm trying to say is I have wondered even what kind of love I can give. You know? Like, I think that's a good thing to wonder about. You know, it's like, yo, before I fall in love, like, what kind of love do I have? You know, just like different blood, you know, different types of, you know, there's like letters to blood, you know. And, you know, I ask myself, do I love objects? I'm like, you know, for survival reasons, I guess. Do I love subjects? And this is where I have a love and hate relationship with language. Do you know? I love language when you use it as a technology. I hate it when it possesses people. It's disturbing to watch. Do you know? Every angry person you've seen is being possessed by the language of their mind. And images also. And you know, I've thought about, like, okay, let's say we love someone. What does that mean? Does that mean we care for them, or does that mean we want them to be in a certain way? Do you know, that's the difference between conditional and unconditional love, right? Conditional love is looking for perfect candidates. Unconditional love is looking for perfect moments. That means both beings are imperfect, but they can create perfect moments together, you know? So that's and this goes to a mystical idea, right? Because they were back in the day, these yogis, even Rumi, you read the poetry of Rumi, this guy's in some divine ecstatic love, which is like a union with the whole cosmos and truth and all of that, right? You know what? I'm going to go into a quote tunnel. Katharine Hepburn. Love has nothing to do with what you're expecting to get, only with what you're expecting to give, which is everything. Mahatma Gandhi. Where there is love, there is life. I mean, love is necessary for progress. I mean, you can't advance something if some part of you doesn't really love that future. Emily Bronte. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. It's these types of quotes that make you realize how lonely you are. Agatha Christie. It is a curious thought, but it is only when you see people looking ridiculous that you realize just how much you love them. Victor Hugo. The greatest happiness of life is the conviction that we are loved for ourselves, or rather loved in spite of ourselves. That's very important in I think, parenthood as well. Joyce Carol Oates. In love there are two things, bodies and words. Zora Neale Hurston. Love makes your soul crawl out from its hiding place. Wow, yeah. So are you saying my soul's been crawling this whole time? No, I'm joking. Friedrich Nietzsche. There is always madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness. Zelda Fitzgerald. Nobody has ever measured, even poets, how much a heart can hold. Wow, that's a good quote. Both these amazing quotes are from people with the, first letter starting Z. Okay. Maya Angelou. Have enough courage to trust love one more time, and always one more time. Okay, that's smart. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Love does not consist in gazing at each other, but in looking outward together in the same direction. Joan Crawford. Love is a fire, but whether it is going to warm your hearth or burn down your house, you can never tell. F. Scott Fitzgerald. I love her, and it is the beginning of everything. Wow. Man, I've been living under a rock, I think. Or living on a rock called Earth. Nora Ephron. When you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. Oscar Wilde. Never love anyone who treats you like you're ordinary. Wow. I mean, you see, I guess there's a meaning there in the sense that nobody's ever ordinary, right? We're kind of like X-Men, but on a DNA level. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different perception. We don't have different superpowers, but we have a different... our superpower is how we see life through our inner realms, which others don't have. That means everybody who's alive... This is why I decided to be a writer. Anybody can be a writer. Let me tell you why. Because nobody like you exists. Have you noticed? If somebody existed like you, that would be kind of freaky. There would be like two of you. Do you know? But there is a you, and there is something, like I'm a twin, right? And in some sense, I would see, like, people would come and say, which one are you? I'm like, Grandma, you already know. It's which one are you? It's just small talk, I think that's the only thing they say. Even if the twins don't look like each other, they're like, which one are you? It's like, there's only me here. No joke. Dolly Parton. Love is something sent from heaven to worry the hell out of you. Jane Austen. There's nothing I would not do for those who are really my friends. I have no notion of loving people by halves. It's not my nature. You know, I think it all depends on where you want to go in this life. And even when you realize if you're not a physical being, you know, one day my brother called me and he's like, how are you? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I've been thinking about like what I'm going to do after this life. Like, Robert Frost says love is an irresistible desire to be irresistibly desired. Wow. Eleanor Roosevelt says the giving of love is an education in itself. Victor Hugo, life is the flower for which love is the honey. Lao Tzu, being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. John Updike, we are most alive when we are in love. Henry Miller, the only thing we never get enough of is love, and the only thing we never give enough of is love. There's only one, George Sand, there's only one happiness in this life, to love and be loved. David Viscott, to love and be loved is to feel the sun from both sides. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, love does not dominate, it cultivates. Yeah. You know, you can say in kind of like, I guess, Chinese mythology, cultivation practices, that idea. So what it is in life, most people use something and then they kind of drop it, right? Or they experience something and then they forget it, they go to the next moment. But those people who cultivate, they're actually holding on to an honest, simple moment of life and watching from there the whole scenario. It's your presence. You cultivate reality as a presence in the moment, not as a person. Or you can say you cultivate a type of personality as a being. Rumi says love is the whole thing, we are only pieces. Aristotle, love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies. Jane Austen, there's no charm equal to the tenderness of the heart. So what does this mean? I was thinking about it. And I thought like, okay, does this mean some being has to be so fascinating that it takes us a lifetime to understand them? Imagine it took a lifetime to get to know somebody. Then there would be no such thing as divorce. But the idea is like, one cannot tell if the cultural program is inefficient or the behavior of the individuals in the cultural program are inefficient. I don't Sorry guys, this was on mute. Do you believe that? Anytime that, guys, if okay, let's just make this a rule. 2 minutes, let's say after 2 minutes of like 1 minute of silence, just type in mute. After 10 minutes of silence, type another mute. And then that's it. I think after that, just don't do it. Somebody in the chat section is writing a very nice quote. I don't know, but it's like halfway. So if the person in the chat section, if you could write that quote fully, others build walls across the zone for you. Oh man. Anyways, guys, it's not like another person can tell another person how to love another person like that. It doesn't even make sense, you know? In reality, what I'm thinking is what's going to happen to all the love that there is in the world, you know? And sure, we have to consider freedom, right? But freedom can have also an evil side, right? So, for example, this was some people considered, for example, communism to be evil. Why? Because everybody was getting the same, but not everybody was working the same. So imagine there's a village, okay, and there's like 2 farmers, and these farmers are feeding the whole village, and everybody is getting the vegetables, and the farmer is like getting nothing. Just 2 people are working to build everything for, like, let's say 10 other people in the village. Okay, so it would be that situation where we'd be like, yeah, freedom, everybody gets equal, and then the farmer's like, I'm dying here though, you know. And so do you see what I'm saying? So it's not just an artificial freedom. Freedom, of course, you got to know, and I don't know, I looked it up myself, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Okay, and they say you have freedom of speech. What does that mean? That means in order to have freedom of speech, you must have freedom of thought. Do you understand? And so when we ask ourselves, do we have freedom of thought? Our freedom of thought, its boundaries are based on the cultural program we're in. Do you understand? Like Michel Foucault, I looked into some of his work and his explanation on the ideas of power, and this guy was saying, yo, you might even have an intellectual sitting there on his, like, you know, at a chair or a table and being like, yo, I see all the fallacies of civilization and I see what's wrong and what needs to be fixed. But Michel Foucault was making the point that that person is born into, and that person could have been born into a flawed system. Do you understand what that means? That means you have no choice. As a child, you have to accept something as real and then function, right? So whatever you're seeing, you're like, this is life, right? You're not wondering about the observer. You're not wondering about the observed. You're not wondering about the distinctions between what is an inner event and outer event. If we look at how many people on the planet are actually suffering from real or unreal events, it's like, I think like 60% of human suffering is from stuff that hasn't happened or doesn't exist, or it's past. You see, let me tell you what's happened. They gave the human species advanced technologies such as language, time, numerology. And this species ran into these technologies and misused them and thought that truth meant never using technology again. Do you understand? Just because we in a civilization 1.0, it's like the best our ancestors could do is still inefficient to our own expectations now. Like, I honor my ancestors, but if I live like them, that's kind of bizarre, no? Because why am I me then? You know, why aren't they just reincarnating? You know, why is there a necessity for a new human being if all the past beings are behaving like the past beings? Do you see? It's the past is not enough. God never said truth is only the past. In religion, in monotheistic religion, there's this beautiful idea that everything came from God and everything returns to God. You see, guys, it's multidimensional, and you have choice in some of these dimensions. My view is that nature is so mysterious and fascinating that before I want to change nature, I want to understand it. I want to understand why I have existed in this format. Before I put in some subjective narrative that has to dehumanize me. Do you understand? I'll tell you an example. Imagine somebody wakes up and says, I'm a robot. Okay? Right? You say, I'm a robot. And people are like, yo, you're not a robot. You're a biological organism. You're like, no, man, I feel like a robot. Look at me do the robot dance. I'm a freaking robot. I'm an android so incredibly designed that you think I'm biological. And the person's like, no, man, you're biological. I could hear you breathe, And the person's like, no, I'm a robot. Right? You have to acknowledge me as a robot. Right? So at that point, we would be like, okay, we can acknowledge you as a robot, but you are evoking another dimension to the meaning of the biological existence. You see, biology has a meaning in the outer realms, and then based on how you feel has a meaning to you in your inner realms. You yourself, you see, it's like three things. What yourself means to you, what your species and others mean to you, and what your world means to you. Okay? And the smartest, most efficient way in order for us to not have problems of self and others, all these people who are fighting with one another, let me tell you how we solve this problem. We solve the problem by being like, yo, forget on selves and others being good. In some sense, we correct the geometry, the blueprints of the world. I'm telling you, the designers will save humanity. Doesn't matter what kind of designer you are. It doesn't matter if you're a graphic designer, you're an engineer, whatever. Or a language designer, Whatever it is, it's just the effort to see what is there and you see, guys, this is the bizarre mystery. This is what I think about, and still I gotta go do more research or something, try to find more views to this idea, because it's not clear to me with the views I have now. But I have this sense that our existence like, this is how I see it, right? If somebody tells me, yo, what are you right now? Are you human? Are you this? Are you that? I have my biology is male. I have the biology of a male human. My psychology is also male, but the way I understand the feminine energy and the male energy is in accordance to intensity. So when I want to do something, I feel the male energy. When I receive more, that's more like the feminine energy. So I would say when I listen, I feel more feminine. When I speak, I feel more masculine. Do you know? But just because I'm not moving the moment, pretty much my understanding of masculinity is you are a power. My whole life, I was, it took me a while to snap out of this simulation. But it was that I was relying on a power outside of me. Okay? But then I realized that doesn't make sense. I must reinvent the wheel in all situations of my life, rather than just accept the wheels designed before. So to me, masculinity transformed into a rediscovery of my own life force and its expression, its authorized expression through decency. And of course I came across Carl Jung, talking about the anima animus. And, my mind has fathomed various versions to myself. I've even seen chaotic versions of myself, dehumanized versions of myself, geometrical. I've seen myself as a geometrical entity so many times, you know. But I treat the inner realms as it is. It comes and goes. It's like weather. Do you understand? If somebody says like I'm a sunny day today, it's like, okay, it's the weather. Do you understand? Like tomorrow it might be a rainy day. One day you might feel incredibly, aligned to your own power, and then some days you might feel completely outside of your own power, as if you didn't give yourself some permission or some sort of karmic baggage is passing through, you know. The idea is that why shouldn't we have an incredibly advanced civilization, an incredibly advanced humanity, and this advancement could be the advancement of all. Do you understand? When I say the advancement principle, I discovered something ingenious. And you know what that is? That if we put the word advanced in front of everything, then their advancement is like a superior quality. Okay, so you can look at a straw and be like, yo, we can have advanced straws in the future. We just look at the cup and the fluid teleports into our mouths or stomach or something, you know. Or there might be invisible straws, right? You just press a button on your phone and like this hologram straw projects and then it 3D prints itself. Let's say phones become 3D printers in the future too, you know. What I'm trying to say is there are so many unknown variables, and there are like let's say there's like 80% unknown variables and 20% known variables, and it's like we're this tip of this iceberg, and we're like, okay, what can the tip of the iceberg do? You know, at some point, guys, I just decided it's we think we have to glorify ourselves all the time. You know, I realized since childhood I was like this kid, and somebody had come and told me, "You're what a good boy," you know, and I hadn't done anything, and I was like, "Yo, I'm just a good boy automatically," you know. And then I realized that the brain is so advanced and sophisticated that it is carrying with itself incomplete moments of its own expression. And so I realized that the pre-assumption, it's like what really changes that it was as if something had happened in my youth and I had a 24/7 expectation that I had to be a specific thing all the time, right? And then I realized that's nonsense. There's both sides here. Do you know? That's the advancement of humanity. It's dualistic management. Transcendental dualistic management. You can think you are anything. You know, I could think right now there was a time where I felt like, I was the Andromeda Galaxy. Somebody was like, what do you mean? You mean you were in the Andromeda Galaxy as an alien? I was like, no, man, I was the Andromeda Galaxy. I was space, you know. Life is incredible because it gives you an opportunity to learn from your own foolishness. This is why, really, in this life, I've never been like, a fool or a wise person. I've just been patient and impatient. When I was patient, I saw more about the moment, and then there was a better strategy that formulated. In chess, there's this incredible advice. They say once you find a good move, relax, and then look around and try to find a better move. That means don't just go based on your first conviction. For me, I thought about, like, what am I doing with these Mr. Within talks? Like, what am I actually creating here? And then I realized, okay, so I'm creating past versions of myself endlessly till the end of time, speaking in cyberspace. So imagine there was one being who had to do the work of like 10,000 beings, okay, in one lifetime, or had the intent to do the work of 10,000 beings. So he, in some sense, you know, recorded 10,000 moments of himself in cyberspace. So you know what's funny? I think I get to experience, like I have the privilege of experiencing people hearing me talk when I'm not talking, like around the world and whatnot, you know. But it's cool, you know, these talks will show that there was something here, you know. How should we really love others? Should we assume our own love for them? Do you know, when I was younger, I did this, and this was foolishness. I think the secret is that you are already being something, and your conditioning makes you think you have to be something specific, and you may go towards that specific path and succeed, but at some point in life you will wonder who you were for yourself. That's a very beautiful moment when that comes. I think in India back in the day, it was like the first 25 years of life were like you were learning from life. The next 25 years you were like married and also like a working man. You were working, and then let's say when you're in the after 50, you're going to 75. You're there with your family and you're passing down, you know, your efforts to the next generations and all of this. And then at the age of 75, the guy would say, all right, sweetheart, I'm too old, I'm gonna pass away, I'm gonna go into the mountains and meditate, you know, Mahasamadhi, something like that. Wow, somebody in the chat section says in Dragon Gate Taoism, one repeats a singular action until becoming a real human. Yeah, honestly, you know, I think really all, let's say, psychological disturbance arises because the person is fearing a certain honesty, basic honesty. I want to read some Rumi quotes right now. Only from the heart can you touch the sky. Rumi says, wherever you are and whatever you do, be in love. Be in love doesn't mean artificially love people you don't know. That means the context is, if we love each other, we can understand each other and then work with each other and build something advanced with each other. Love is important, guys. I'm just saying that it's like, you know, imagine a car is not working and there's a couple, right? And, you know, imagine there's like this monk, okay? And this monk is like, you know, driving a car and the car like crashes, or not crashes, but the car breaks down or something. Right, and he's parked there, and he's there sitting. He opens the hood of the car, and he just starts praying. He starts praying, like, universe help me, da 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 da. I love this car. Oh my God, may my love protect this car, bring this car to life, and all of this. But you'll realize, like, somebody's gonna come and like park there and be like, buddy, like, look at your engine. The problem's not a spiritual problem. The problem is a physical problem. Sure, physicalism can become spiritual, but like you can have this view that you're experiencing physicality rather than just being a limited existence, you know. Rumi says your heart knows the way, run in that direction. Rumi says love is the bridge between you and everything. Guys, love on an individual, like, let's say there's a love of a self for itself, a love for its species, and a love for its world. It is completely okay to love your world and everything in it. But I'm just saying, you also have the faculty of analysis. And this is where short-term love is spontaneous, but the long-term love has to be a strategy. That means, I would say, like, couples have to sit down and for years strategize, you know. There should be like strategic couple counseling or something in the future. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. These quotes are okay. Here, I'll read a few more quotes. Rumi says, whatever lifts the corners of your mouth, trust that. Okay. Rumi says, if I love myself, I love you. If I love you, I love myself. Rumi says, close your eyes, fall in love, stay there. Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Rumi says, let your teacher be love itself. Let your, I read that. Laugh as much as you breathe, love as long as you live. Rumi says, let the beauty we love be what we do. Guys, there's an incredible beauty to the advanced civilization. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, I'm someone who I would say I've 100%, I would say, a part of my intelligence fell in love with the vision and the brilliance and the presence, the majestic presence of the advanced civilization, of advanced human beings, of inefficiency going under 50% and efficiency going above. When efficient decisions are made on Earth, a new energy will find the species. That energy will be its own guidance. The future generations have the greatest of tasks ahead. Rumi says, let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. Rumi says, be soulful, be kind, be in love. Rumi says, love sometimes wants to do us a great favor, hold us upside down and shake all the nonsense out. Rumi says, love is not an emotion, it's your very existence. Rumi says, love risks everything and asks for nothing. Rumi says, this is love, to fly toward a secret sky, to cause 100 veils to fall each moment. First, to let go of life, finally, to take a step without feet. Guys, when he says to let go of life, this doesn't mean death. This means the illusion, the subjective overlay illusion on life. The movie Matrix is true. You know, it was a documentary. But what was it a documentary of? The Matrix, the code on the screen, is the language, the linguistic structure, and the storytelling formats that are occurring behind the psyche, behind the eyes of this entity that we're being, behind the eyes of humanity. So it's not just humanized experiences in the outer realm, there's many dehumanized experiences. At some point you will realize the management of infinity requires God. Intellectual, they called it Raja Yoga. That means intellectually you pursue truth, then you reach a point where there could be infinite viewpoints to truth. So which is true? And then you realize you did not create the world, and then the idea of God becomes a crack, just like Rumi says, there's a secret freedom from a crack you can barely see. Through a crack you can barely see. And that's the realization that you are not just a biological animal here. You are a subjective, civilized human being. That means this animal is dressed in the uniform of a civilized, advanced being. Now, as human beings, our efforts are to expand this advancement, culturally meaning. And I was thinking, does this mean we got to tell everybody to do the same thing? Does it mean it's a strategy with an agenda? And this is why I realize it's not an agenda, it's a principle. Advance every corner of your vision. Fall in love with how advanced everything can be. Human beings, do you understand? My twin brother wrote an incredible science fiction story, which I was telling him he had to get it out there. But long story short, he created this character, this divine being, like the son of the Lord of the whole cosmos and whatnot, in a celestial format, celestial entities. And then this guy, he was everybody. He had gone for like a week into all the worlds, and he had decided to go through all the worlds and back. All the levels of creation, starting from the lowest to the highest, right? And everybody expected this advanced celestial being to do this in a week, but he did it in 3 days. And the way my brother was telling me, this was years ago, it was like he gave me goosebumps, Anyways, Rumi says, on the path of love, we are neither masters nor the owners of our lives. We are only a brush in the hand of the master painter. Rumi says, whatever happens, just keep smiling and you lose yourself in love. Guys, this is not love like, popcorn, holding hands love. This is, in some sense, you're feeling the presence of truth in the other. It's as if you are seeing your future self through the other. And I think that could be said to be when one is worthy of love. Rumi says, this is a subtle truth. Whatever you love, you are. Rumi says, every moment is made glorious by the light of love. Rumi says, come out of the circle of time and into the circle of love. That means don't fear death, love life while you're alive. Rumi says, for those who love with heart and soul, there's no such thing as separation. You see, guys, a human being experiencing divine life on earth doesn't need to be with another human being. That thing I was saying about